Hi, everybody. I'm so excited to have a boss lady in the building. She has no introduction, needs no introduction. Miss Monique Rose. She is the owner of Milk and Honey DMV, top restaurant. Everyone's raving about their food, their customer service. I mean, she's just a true boss, entrepreneur, leading and paving the way. She also has another brand called Mink and Honey Health Beauty brand that we're going to talk about as well. So thank you, Miss Monique. How are you?
I'm amazing. How are you? Thank you for having me.
I'm doing awesome. So, can you tell us a little bit about your personal story?
Sure. How far back do you want me to go?
It's up to you.
Let's see. Born and raised in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I have been a entrepreneur since I was 20 years old. I owned my first bar at 20. I've been a bartender since 18, so I have been in the industry in some form or fashion since 1998, and the majority of that time in an ownership role. Um, so let's see. I started back then, teenage mother, had my son at 16. On paper, statistically, should not be where I am. I did not go to school for business. I went to college, didn't complete college. Uh, Barely graduated from high school. Milwaukee, if anyone knows anything about Milwaukee, is not the place that you typically get out of and go on to do great things. So I came from that background, moved to Atlanta, Georgia in 2010. So I spent 30 years in Milwaukee, kind of figuring out my way and working. Moved to Atlanta, had to start over. Was no longer a business owner, started from the bottom, began bartending again. Within 2 months, I was operations manager at a sports bar there, made my way up to general manager of Scales 925, which was the rapper T.I.'s 20,000 square foot restaurant in downtown Atlanta, which was quite the feat. And then just took some baby steps all the while working to owning Milk and Honey, which is kind of where my life changed again when we opened Milk and Honey in 2016 in Beltsville, Maryland. And it has been quite the journey ever since.
Awesome. Awesome. Now, one of the quotes that you have all the time on your page is outwork everyone. What does
Yes.
that mean? And I'm sure you kind of include, I guess, your older or prior self, your lower self. I know we have the higher and lower self. Can you talk about that?
Yes. So I think people think that that's a hashtag for me. Like, sometimes people just put stuff on their page. I say outwork everybody all the time. And until they meet me or have a conversation with me or really know my story, they probably just think that's just something to say. But that really has been my mantra my entire life. Even when I was in those low points and working for other people, not that working for other people is a low point, but I've had some low points in my life where I was working for other people, trying to figure out my way, entry level positions, making, the bare minimum. But I always worked ever since I was 13 years old. It's all I've ever known to do. It always just seemed to me to be, when you're in motion, it's easy to stay in motion. So I've always worked because it always had a reward for me in some form or fashion. So for me, outwork everybody doesn't just apply to business, although I do, use that in business. It's in life too. I've grown to, outwork everybody in regards to my spirituality, in regards to my relationships with other people, in regards to even my growth as a woman, as a mother, a daughter, a sister, a friend. So I've just found that, you get what you give. You actually get way more than you give. That's just the way the universe works. So for me, outwork everybody is literally how I live my life. I wake up every day at 4:30 a.m. not because I like to get up at 4:30, but because that is when I feel most in tune with God and the universe. And I get so much done while other people are sleeping. And it carries throughout my day daily until, I lay back down. I've gotten a lot better most recently about the rest part of it, though, because I do understand that, you can burn yourself out and you don't have much left to offer others if you have outworked people the way that I did. So there is a little balance. I understand that life can't be totally balanced, but there has been some better balance for me recently in the self-care area, which is where Mink and Honey came into play. But outwork everybody is not just a hashtag. It's not just on my social media. It's literally how I live my life.
Wow, I gotta join you to the 4:30 a.m. I hate getting up early. I think like 6:30 is like my limit. I'm trying to work up, but
Yeah, you just do it
maybe
30 minutes at a time, 10 minutes at a time.
okay,
If you have to, just take it to 6:10 and then 6, and then before you
okay,
know it, you'll be. And I'm not saying 4:30 has to be it. It depends on your lifestyle. But just for me, at this point in my life, it's my peak time of peace and calm when the world isn't moving and I get so much done during that time frame, that it just works for me.
that's true. So, I'm sure you probably get these questions all the time. So, what would you recommend? I'm sure people ask you for advice all the time. What are your thoughts on the ghost kitchens versus people just going and open up a restaurant and it failing, or either starting with a food truck, building that, and then going to a restaurant?
I am so for proof of concept. I think that your business tells you what you need to do. It's just that we don't listen. I think sometimes we jump into it before, we are told from the market and our consumer what it is that they need or what they're missing. And Milk and Honey didn't just start as Milk and Honey. It started as a top 10 pop-up brunch that we were doing in Atlanta at restaurants that were closed on Sundays. So we said, oh, okay, you're closed. Here's an opportunity for me to go in, do a little brunch with 10 items on it. Just test the market, just see, are people responding to this? Is this what they want? Do they like the food? What do they really like? That helped birth, what Milk and Honey became. And we did stay with the top 10 brunch because, I do believe that you have to do something better than anybody to, really grasp your market share. But I think the ghost kitchens are so cool. It's a way to do things without as much overhead at the beginning, because that's another mistake that most business owners make, especially people in restaurants, is to enter something in so much debt that you just can't get yourself out of it. Particularly in restaurants, the profit margin is very slim. You don't make a lot of money until you have multiple locations and you're doing it perfectly. So I think ghost kitchen, food trucks, if you're on a food truck and then you need another one and the line is out the door and you're running out of food, that tells you, oh, okay, now it's time for me to move to a brick and mortar. I think those steps are very important, particularly in the restaurant industry.
Okay. So, how are you able to not only hire but cultivate a team-oriented environment? I think that's critical in business as well.
It is, and that is something, I'm a very honest person. I would tell you that I am still mastering, because being able to scale and grow is you can't grow a business if you're in the business, and I've learned that the last 6 years. I've been really blessed to have participated in growing the Milk and Honey brand to so many locations that another restaurant group actually purchased us in 2020, bought the brand out, which is how I ended up with the real Milk and Honey. But I'm not going to lie to you and say I did an amazing job of team building, because it has always been me being the worker. So morphing into the role of CEO, of running the company as opposed to working in the company, was not an easy task for me. I now have relinquished some of those things and been able to delegate. And but what I've always done is surround myself with people who are smarter than me, better than me as something. I can't always be the smartest person in the room. I can't always be the richest person in the room. You have to, be willing to invite people in that do something better than you do. And I think that's the most important thing about team building. And then also being a true leader and understanding that, sometimes this is just a pass through for people. I want people to leave me better than, when they came. And I certainly do not expect them to retire, from a Milk and Honey restaurant or any other business that I have. So I think, being willing to understand that sometimes, the team is temporary, but as long as you have all your aces in places that are doing exactly what you need, it will make it so much easier to grow. It seemed like a quick amount of time that we were able to sell the Milk and Honey brand, but I probably could have did it even faster had I had started the team building at the onset as opposed to waiting.
So, can you talk about that? I know some people have different thoughts and opinions about selling their business, and why
Mm.
did you feel the need that was a good step? Because I know that there's like different opinions about that.
Yeah, I've heard the other side of it. I don't, and I understand and I respect it. But for me personally, I always enter a business venture with an exit strategy in play already. To me,
I
that's
think you
part
went
of
to school.
business. I didn't. I went to the school of life. That's right. I went to the
I
school
swear
of
you got your degree. Look, you got your life degree, right?
right. The school of failure, the school of hard time. I've been to school, all right. But I think that is when you are most successful, and it's been to be true. And in my professional career, as far as it relates to business, is to always have a extra strategy in mind. I initially, when I saw that Milk and Honey could be more than this little 40-seat cafe in one location in Beltsville, Maryland, I said, okay, wow, okay, we under something here. How can I scale this and grow this? And what does that look like? What would it take to attract somebody that would say, hey, I believe in this enough. You're doing so well that I would like to buy it. So for me, extra strategy is always part of it. Even now to this day, people say, oh, you got this one location left, or one Milk and Honey location left. You're going to hold on to a legacy for your kids, all this and that. For me, that's never been my end game. I've never been so attached to something, a name, any of that. I tell people that too. Like I do also do success coaching, or I like to call it, but it's business consulting. And people have a horrible name. And I'm like, I don't even know what your business does based on the name. Well, why are you so attached to this name? And it's because usually some sentimental value. They want to name it something. You can't be so married to the idea of something that you miss, the opportunities that are in front of you. So yeah, Milk and Honey was at its peak. This was, pre-pandemic. We were, 6 locations over at that point in time, I think close to $30 million in revenue. Everybody said, are you crazy? Why are you willing to sell? Because now I had the blueprint. I knew exactly how to do it. And not saying that I could create another Milk and Honey, but I certainly can create another brand, scale it, and sell again. So for me, that is what I like to do. I think that is what I'm good at, which is starting businesses, building them, increasing revenue, making them profitable. And I want to just continue to do what I'm good at. I don't want to step in somebody else's lane.
Okay, I heard that. So talk about branding yourself. I saw that a lot of time business owners, they want to stay in that box, but you just spoke about your consulting business, and why did you feel the need to branch out and start that like now as opposed to later?
Um, I think once I hit, like 7 figures, and I realized um, what we hear all the time is cliche, like multiple streams of revenue. You need multiple streams of revenue. I think that really, honestly, the pandemic like really opened my eyes to that, because eggs all in one basket during the pandemic ended some people. I mean, almost 80% of restaurants failed and closed during the pandemic because that's all they had. And then once they closed and you couldn't do any business, then what? Being able to pivot was very important as well. Like during the pandemic, okay, we're no longer a full service restaurant. Now I have to pivot into food preparation, delivering meals, whatever it is that I have to do. So I think I realized, and I've always had more than one job. So again, I work. So even when I was working, I had a day job. I went to the bar to bartend. I was a correctional officer. I still was bartending. I opened a group home. I still was bartending. So I always kept a day job. I always had something else going on. Now, I do think in business, it's very important that you master something first. So I wasn't doing a whole lot of stuff when we were first building Milk and Honey, because I really wanted to put my energy and my focus into that. But once I had that down pat, then you move on, and that's where Milk and Honey comes from, and that's where my next real estate or whatever is next for me comes. But I think you master one thing and then move on to something else so that you can continue to earn revenue if that's what you're looking to do.
Okay. And why did you decide to create the Milk and Honey health and beauty brand?
Several reasons, but main is that I saw that I had a captive audience. Women come brunch. I was the owner of the most popular brunch restaurant in the DMV and Atlanta, and I said, "Wow, most people who come to brunch are women, and I have earned their trust and their respect and their loyalty as far as this brand is concerned. What more can I offer them besides a place to come, have brunch and mimosas? What more can I do for them?" The beauty brand, I mean, the beauty industry is huge. It's billions and billions of dollars. So I said, okay, well, how can I tap into this? Because most women, are using some type of beauty products. I chose to do something that I'm more closely related to. I don't wear a lot of makeup. I do like to, get dialed up and go have somebody do my makeup, but it's not something that I do. So I said, well, what can I do? Skincare. because skincare is, what's underneath the makeup is just as important. And I used to always get all the time, your skin's so beautiful. What do you do? So I took 2 years to cultivate Mink and Honey. I didn't just jump into it. I really made sure that I partnered with a manufacturer that wanted to produce the type of products that I felt I should put out. I gave superior food to people, and Milk and Honey comes from God's promise to his people, which is where the name derived from. So I didn't want to start another brand that was kind of a derivative of Milk and Honey and not have the same promise to those people that were going to purchase the product. So I took 2 years. I really developed what I think is the best skincare line on the market, especially for the price point that we're at. And then I added a couple of things that, even if your skin looks nice, you want to pop on some lashes and do some lip gloss. And for me, that's what I do every day, some lashes and some lip gloss. So I said, okay, I'll add those couple of things. And then my weight loss journey has been a part of my life probably for the last 12 years. I've been up and down. I lost 60 pounds, lost 70 pounds, gained it back, been back and forth. And, even though I sell comfort food and it seems kind of contradictory, I do want us to be healthy. I think anything in moderation is okay, right? So it's okay to go have you some milk and honey every now and then and, have a mimosa. But the health and wellness came from that. I really have had a journey, with my own weight loss. So I say here, I want to offer some products that can, I got to balance the scales a little bit. I'm giving you shrimp and grits, clogging your arteries over here. At least let me offer a detox or something, for the in-between time. So I'm really proud of Mink and Honey and where it's headed and the products that we offer.
Okay. And is it in Walmart?
Well, it's not in Walmart yet. So what Walmart had was, I am on Walmart.com. Okay. I am sold on Walmart.com, and they were.
That's a big deal. Now I don't want you to skip over that now.
Well, I'm not. But the ultimate goal, obviously, is to be in retail. But I was afforded the opportunity to get on the site, and they see, what type of reviews we get. Are we good with, shipping out our products all the time? And I must say that, knock on something, we've had amazing reviews. We get all of our orders out within 24 hours. So it's been an amazing experience, which I think opened the door to other things for Mink and Honey. So I'm really excited to see where we end up.
So how did you handle, with all the success, of course you had to go through no's, how did you handle your family and friends or anybody in the beginning who kind of was like, nah, Monique, I'm good? Or how did you handle that?
I had a lot of no's in the sense of not me asking for anything from anybody, but them saying, you're crazy. What are you doing? Like when I was leaving Atlanta and going back and forth to Beltsville, Maryland. And I even said at the time to myself and my friends at the time, I said, there's no way I'm ever moving to Beltsville, Maryland. What is Beltsville, Maryland? I didn't even know what this place was. I was like, what is going on here? So I was like, I got a lot of no's in that sense, like just not supportive of what was going on, thinking I was crazy. I had to leave. Well, my son was 18 at, probably close to 19, 20 at the time. My daughter, she's 16 now. So this was 6 years ago. She was probably 10 going on 11. And I was gone half the week coming back and forth. So it was a sacrifice, trying to figure out and navigate what exactly I was doing. When I first was traveling to Beltsville, I was doing some bar consulting work for $500 a week. Like literally, like that's all I was making. So it really seemed crazy. Like you're going out there for peanuts. But like I always said, work. I'm just going to keep working, and it has to lead to something. And that the restaurant that I was consulting for, which was Swahili Village, was moving to a larger place. And that's where the first Milk and Honey was, in their old building. They didn't want another African restaurant to go into their space and steal all of their guests, that might have not known they moved. And he offered the opportunity for me to open something there. So, but that came from working. Had I shunned that $500 a week opportunity, I wouldn't have, made it to that. So I just stuck to what I knew, which is to work. And I knew that eventually my friends and family and those close to me would see like, oh, she's under something. And eventually they did. Like a lot of my family members actually moved to Maryland after Milk and Honey, will continue to grow, because they said, like, they came and visited and said, oh, she's serious, she's busy. Yeah, I wasn't just avoiding y'all calls. Like, I'm really working for real. So they saw, what it is. And, now they know.
Wow. Last two questions. What was your marketing strategy? Like in the beginning, even when you were in Atlanta, like nobody knew you. You don't have the I guess the fame and the influence just yet. Like, how did you
Yeah.
do it?
Well, at the time, I was partnered with a chef, so that was helpful because that gave me credibility as far as the culinary piece. Now, fast forward to years later, I'm a chef in my own right. But at the time, like I said, you always have to surround yourself with people who are better than you at something. He was a better cook than I was. He was good, at the time. Now I'll cook anybody, but at the time, he was a better cook than I was. So, having that partnership, knowing the right partnerships, knowing when to be okay with sharing the spotlight, and saying, here, somebody does this better than me, but this is what we can grow and turn into. Heck yeah, you do this and I'll do what I do well, which is the business piece of it. So I think it was just partnerships at the very beginning, making the right partnerships, and also knowing when to release certain partnerships and knowing when it's no longer working for me or for the brand or anybody else. I think that's so important. Like, I tell business owners that too. Like, we're quick to hire, but we're so slow to fire. That's important. These are all things that you have to know. That's more important than anything, knowing when to fire somebody, for lack of a better word, literally fire somebody, and also knowing when it's just time to end something. So, yeah, the marketing strategy at that time was just being the best at it. And that's why I started with those 10 items, and we did them better than anybody. We still do. And I let the marketing be through other people. I literally have, to this day, not spent $1 on market. Like, I don't spend any money on marketing. I allow social media to do the marketing. And throughout Milk and Honey, the Monique Rose brand has grown. And then I'm able to be my own influencer. I'm able to say to my own audience, okay, here, this is the business that we're pushing this week. And people follow me. They probably get sick of me promoting Milk and Honey and Meek and Honey and everything else that I have going on. But, the marketing strategy has evolved in that way, but it's always been just put out the best product or the best service and let people do the talking for you.
Wow, I love that. So what's next? What's the vision for you,
Hmm.
for the brand? The
Well,
brand's S.
no, right, true. I think there's been evolving as far as being less focused on like Milk and Honey or Catch 22 or the Bodega or any of the individual brands, and really just cultivating. I think somebody rewrote my bio and called me a multi hyphenated entrepreneur. I like that description, and I think that is a good description of where I'm going. Not any one thing, a hybrid of things, and always seeing how I can provide better product or better service to the audience that I already serve. So I think that is how we're going to continue to evolve. The more experience I gain in business and the more success that I have in business, I want to share with other people. So maybe that turns into courses that I offer or webinars, where I can meet more, reach more people as opposed to the one-on-one kind of coaching that I'm doing. That's as far as Monique Rose. Mink and Honey, I hope, well, y'all know you're recording this and we're going to play it and somebody's going to see it later and say, I said that we will be one of the biggest Black-owned beauty brands. And I do believe that to be true because I'm going to put my heart and soul into this just like I did into Milk and Honey. Restaurants for me are fun. They're stressful, but it's something I do well and do easily. So I see myself probably opening more restaurants or assisting other people in opening restaurants so that they don't make some of the mistakes that I've seen other people make. So doing some consulting on that side of it. And then, of course, as we all have learned, that real estate is where you're supposed to be. So I've started to purchase some of the commercial buildings that my businesses are in so that even if I do sell them, I still am the landlord. That is something I learned from the sale of Milk and Honey. Like, dang, if I was the landlord for all of those locations that they purchased, the McDonald's theory, I would be in business. I mean, I'm blessed still, but that would have been what's up if I was the owner of the building and not just the business. So I think that's where I'm headed, probably over the next 5 to 7 years.
Okay, before we wrap up, someone just sent me a question.
Yeah.
How have you, I guess, impact the community? Someone just sent me that.
Well, one of the biggest ways that I know for a fact, especially in this area and particularly in Prince George's County, is through employment. I employ at one point over 150 people. Now it's a lot less, but I know that for a fact that has affected the community because I help people, provide a livelihood for themselves, their family. I always am and I have to learn how to say no to this. My CPA is now telling me this, but I always donate when whatever school comes around or what. I actually formed a foundation called Rags to Roses because my true life passion and work is working with teenage girls in particular, but that is what I did before I moved to Atlanta. Was I owned group foster homes and helped foster kids that were aging out of the foster care system. So that's my true passion. So I always, even to this day, I'm in contact with those girls that were in my group home and make sure that they're okay. And it's so fun and just rewarding to see what they've done with their lives. So I give back to the community in a bunch of ways, but that's just, a couple.
Okay. So can you tell the world where they can find and connect with you at?
Yes, absolutely. Everything for the most part for my personal brand is the Monique Rose. So like the flower. So Monique Rose, the Monique Rose on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all of that. The Real Milk and Honey DMV is how you can find the restaurant, and Mink and Honey Beauty and Mink and Honey Shop are my beauty and wellness brands. And then MoniqueRose.com, you can find everything.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for your time. We're all rooting for you. Your
Thank you.
product is going to be in Walmart. LaGuardia put it
That's
out there
right.
early. I'm like, hold on. Is it in there?
That's
What
okay.
store is it at?
From your mouth to God's ears. Let's claim that.
I love it. I love it. But thank you so much. Truly, your time is appreciated. It's the one thing, we can't get back. So just want to say thank you. I see nothing but great things, and keep outworking everyone.
That's right. I appreciate it.
All right. Take care.
All right. You too.